The morning sun glittered off the calm waters of Willow Creek, a quiet riverfront town in Oregon where my daughter, Sarah, and I had just settled into our new cabin in the summer of 2024. We dreamed of this place for years, a peaceful escape after decades running my auto shop in the city. I'm Tom, by the way, a mechanic who spent more time under car hoods than I care to count. Sarah, my daughter, is a planner, always dotting her I's and crossing her T's, probably from years of navigating legal paperwork in her job. We'd barely unpacked when trouble found us. And let me tell you, it wasn't the kind of trouble you expect in a sleepy riverside retreat. If you've ever dealt with a neighbor who thought they owned your life, stick around, this story's for you. It all started on day 2, when I was organizing my tools in the garage, grease-stained hands wiping on an old rag, and Sarah was sorting boxes on the porch. Footsteps crunched on the gravel path, deliberate, like someone who wanted you to know they were coming. I looked up, and there was Karen Mitchell, striding toward us like she owned every inch of Willow Creek. She carried a clipboard like it was a badge of honor, and her phone was already recording, maybe even live streaming to who knows who. New residents, she announced, voice sharp as a blade, are required to join the Riverfront Association. Mandatory fees, mandatory rules. Her tone reminded me of customers who'd storm into my shop, claiming they knew more about engines than I did. Sarah, always the diplomat, responded calmly. We'll need to see the legal documents first. I caught the glint in her eye. She was already suspicious, her legal brain kicking into gear. Karen handed over a stack of papers, thick as a phone book, with highlighted sections about fees, river access rules, and community standards. I glanced toward the river trail and spotted a faded sign half buried in weeds. River maintained by Oregon State Parks. That didn't add up. If the state owned the river, why was Karen acting like she controlled it? She kept talking, tossing out a weirdly specific jab. You've got code violations from June, don't you? How could she know that? We just moved in. I made a mental note to check with Sarah later, who was already snapping photos of the documents with her phone. Karen noticed and smirked. Most folks find it easier to cooperate than resist. It sounded like a threat wrapped in a neighborly smile, but I brushed it off, too focused on my tools to realize the storm brewing. That night, our doorbell camera caught something chilling. Around 10 p.m., someone crept up to our mailbox, rifling through our letters before dropping a clipboard and vanishing into the dark. The footage wasn't perfect, but it was deliberate. Someone was digging into our lives. Sarah studied the video, her face all business, and I knew she was thinking the same thing I was. Karen. The next morning, we woke to violation notices plastered across our property, taped to the door, mailbox, even my truck's windshield. They cited my tools being visible and our lawn being below standards. We'd been here 3 days. The grass hadn't grown an inch. Sarah shook her head. This is harassment, plain and simple. I tried to laugh it off, but deep down, I was pissed. Who had time to fabricate violations this fast? Karen didn't stop there. She started live streaming her inspections, narrating to her phone like she was starring in some reality show about taming bad neighbors. I caught her performance from the kitchen window, and it felt like public shaming, not community management. Then I found industrial staples driven into my trucks, tires, not road debris, but sabotage. I've fixed enough cars to know intentional damage when I see it. This wasn't just paperwork nonsense anymore. Someone was out to hurt us. Karen sent a neighborhood email with the subject, "Newcomers Disrupt Riverfront Harmony," painting us as troublemakers. Neighbors we hadn't even met started giving us the cold shoulder. It was calculated, like she was building a case to turn the whole town against us. Things got weirder at a community meeting in the town hall. Karen sat at a table with a guy named Victor Lane, who called himself a compliance consultant. He had the slick confidence of a used car salesman, waving around contracts that looked like they'd been cobbled together from random internet templates. I noticed the letterheads didn't match, some from Nevada, others from Washington, none local. Sarah whispered, "This is amateur hour," as she scribbled notes. Victor's handouts had QR codes linking to a PayPal account under Mitchell_Riverfront, clearly Karen's personal setup. A legit HOA wouldn't use PayPal for dues, right? When Sarah asked Victor about his legal credentials, he dodged, mumbling about regulatory advisory, without specifics. His business card had no office address, just a phone and email. Red flags everywhere. The real kicker came when Sarah went for her evening jog along the river trail. I was inside, flipping through Karen's paperwork, when I heard an engine idling too long outside. Through the window, I saw Karen's SUV trailing Sarah, stopping when she stopped, moving when she moved. It wasn't a patrol, it was stalking. When Sarah got back, her face was calm but deadly serious. She described how Karen had cornered her near an old pier, far from any houses, and made sure Sarah saw the gun in her console. "I enforce order here," Karen said, voice low. "Respect comes one way or another." It wasn't a direct threat, but the message was clear: comply or else. I felt my blood boil. This wasn't about fees anymore, this was personal. Sarah didn't flinch. Instead, she went full detective mode, typing up incident reports with timestamps and coordinates, backing everything up to encrypted cloud storage. "Standard procedure," she said when I asked about it, but her expertise hinted at a side of her I didn't know. We checked security footage from a nearby gas station, which caught part of Karen's SUV near the pier. That video could prove stalking if it came to it. I started wondering about Sarah's job. What kind of work makes you this prepared for armed intimidation? A threatening text arrived that night. Saturday, 5 p.m., River Pier. Final talk. No signature, but Karen's imperious tone was unmistakable. The isolated location screamed setup. By Saturday, the tension was thick enough to choke on. Neighbors gathered near the river pier, some with lawn chairs like they were watching a show. Karen stood at the center, clipboard in hand, radiating control. Sarah walked toward her with a calm I couldn't believe, dressed casually, but moving like someone who'd done this before. She started asking pointed questions about the association's legal standing, incorporation papers, state registrations, financial transparency. Karen squirmed, her answers vague and defensive. The crowd shifted, sensing something off. Then Karen snapped. "You're disrespecting our community," she shouted, reaching into her jacket and pulling a gun, aiming it at Sarah. "Join or be excluded permanently." Gasps ripped through the crowd. Parents shielded kids. Phones came out to record. Karen fired a shot into the air, and chaos erupted. I moved fast, years of handling shop emergencies kicking in. I disarmed her, twisting her wrist until the gun dropped, then cuffed her with zip ties from my tool bag. "On whose authority?" she screamed. Sarah stepped forward, voice like steel. "Sheriff Sarah Bennett, Willow County. Lower your weapon now." The crowd froze. Karen's jaw dropped, her confidence collapsing as she realized she'd just threatened a cop. Sarah played audio from her phone, Karen's earlier threat, "I am the law here," echoing across the river. Neighbors recorded it all, their phones capturing every second of Karen's meltdown. I herded families to safety behind the pavilion while Sarah kept control. Sirens wailed as backup arrived. Karen was cuffed and taken away, still babbling about her authority. Sarah photographed a state park code on the pier's sign, a detail that would later prove crucial. Neighbors started apologizing, admitting they'd been pressured into paying Karen's fees, scared of losing river access. The scope of her scam was unraveling. Later that night, I found a USB drive in Karen's dropped clipboard. Plugged into my laptop, it revealed folders labeled with our names and others, packed with fake violation logs and financial records. Victor's name was all over it. At the police station, Sarah was in her element, uniformed and commanding as she processed evidence. Victor showed up, waving another USB drive, claiming it proved Sarah's misconduct. Big mistake. Forensics cracked it open, finding not just his fake evidence, but hidden files detailing a multi-state HOA fraud ring. Victor and Karen had been fleecing retirement towns for years, using fake registrations and PayPal scams. My old mechanics, I caught vehicle registration numbers in Victor's files, linking to shell companies he'd set up. Sarah's photo of the state park sign confirmed the river was public land, no HOA had any claim. Their whole operation was a house of cards. The next morning, state officials and media swarmed Willow Creek. Survey maps proved the river and trails belonged to the state, not Karen's fake association. She'd collected thousands in illegal fees, hiding the truth with fake signs and threats. Residents were stunned. Some had paid her for years. Federal charges piled up: fraud, extortion, weapons violations. Restitution orders returned stolen money, and Karen and Victor faced decades in prison. Their fake signs came down, the sound of bolts hitting the pier like a final note of freedom. 6 weeks later, Willow Creek was alive again. Families fished and laughed by the river, no longer scared of violations. My garage business boomed as neighbors spread word of my role in exposing the scam. Sarah balanced her sheriff duties with cabin life, her calm competence earning respect. We recycled Karen's fake notices, erasing her lies. Our bond grew stronger through the chaos, and I saw my daughter in a new light, a warrior for justice. But here's where it gets messy. Was Karen just a power-hungry nutcase, or was there more to her network? Could others in town have known about her scam and stayed quiet? How do you rebuild trust when your neighbors fell for a con so easily? And what would you do if someone threatened your family with a gun over a fake rule? Drop your thoughts in the comments, let's argue about it. If this story got your blood pumping, hit that like button and subscribe. Stay sharp, and if someone demands your weekend, demand a badge first.